Hello. So today is my day off. Those midweek weekends that I have, but it's also school holidays here in New Zealand. So on my day off, I'm having to look after my son the whole day, which he's my son. I love him, and I generally like spending time with him. But sometimes you need a little bit of a break, at least some of the time. But anyway, we were out and about today, and we called into one of the stores in the area, and it's actually one of the stores that very rarely has anything decent, and that has a lot of stock that sits there for months on end that doesn't change. But today they actually had a few interesting things. I only picked up some of them, but there are some things that I was on the fence. There was quite a few compilations from the early 2000s of kind of whatever the popular rock at that time. Um, but I thought the better of getting those. But what I did get is three albums. First one here, you might recognize that. You can see there, this is the Ben Harper album, The Will to Live. Now, I have mixed feelings about Ben Harper and his work. You may remember, well, actually, I don't know because I don't know what it was like in other countries, but there was a period here in New Zealand of about 96 through 2002 where Ben Harper was huge and was amongst the youth and I guess younger demographic of adults, 20s and 30s. He was one of the most popular artists. And there was actually, I think I've talked about this before, there are certain artists that statistically do really well here. Um, and he is one of them. But if you do it by per capita, by head of population, Ben Harper, Tool, who I talked about yesterday. Um, who else? There's a couple of other ones that, like, if it was transposed onto an American-sized population, that would be like 20 million album sellers or something like that. And I think Jack Johnson was another one. Um, there's another one just on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think who the hell it is. Anyway, not really important. But Ben Harper was one of them, and it seemed like a period there you could not move for running into or hearing a Ben Harper song on TV or on the radio or some other place. This album came out, I think, about 97. Yes, 1997. And this is the one and only Ben Harper album that I've actually ever owned previously myself. The stuff that came before this, and certainly the stuff that came after this, I didn't like. But there was a period where I would say I was a Ben Harper fan, to the point, or to the what's the word? I was a fan to so much so that I went to one of his live shows. He played here in very early 1998, would have been January 1998, and I saw him. He was touring this album, The Will to Live. So I picked this up, and that brings back memories. Saying that, I wouldn't say I haven't looked at this CD like that disc design for like over 20 years. But obviously, I did used to own it about 23, 24, 25 years ago. And it's funny seeing it again. Yeah, these were all $1 each. These were all from the same store, and they were all $1 each. Um, this was a period where, and I don't know what happened after this, but where he kind of had a band that he featured in the videos with him and that toured with him, and it was kind of the same guys for a period there, and then I think it changed up. But it was the bass player, I think his name was Juan Nelson, and he was a pretty great bass player. The drummer, I can't remember his name. It might actually be listed in here. His name, Dean Butterworth. This is. I guess they are the innocent criminals because that's how they're billed, Ben Harper and the innocent criminals. So what you got? Faded. That was a single. Homeless Child. I remember that. I think Jar Work was a single. Will to Live. I remember that song. Glory and Consequences. I see all these, like, I'm sure when I listen to this, it will bring back a lot of memories. Because, like I said, what happened is, if I can kind of explain a bit about maybe how I got turned off Ben Harper, is that, like I said, he was everywhere, especially after this album. What was the album after this? I think it was Burn to Shine. Now that I think is where he reached his peak here in New Zealand, because that was 1999, and then he did Diamonds on the Inside after that. Which, when Burn to Shine came out, I had a girlfriend who she loved Ben Harper, and she had all his albums, and there was some kind of a drama around that. But I think kind of I have certain negative associations with her and that music, and this kind of vibe that she had that wasn't my vibe, if you know what I mean, kind of. And then it's just because, when something just becomes so everywhere that it just turns you off. And then also, I could say that Burn to Shine, from what I heard of that album, she played it to death. I didn't like it at all. I especially didn't like the title song, the song the album was named after, Burn to Shine. And so I just stopped listening to his music. And that kind of negative association that I got from Ben Harper, then, oh, that's right, Steal My Kisses. Remember that song? Oh, fuck, I hated that song, Steal My Kisses. That was on Burn to Shine as well. That was really, I can't kind of emphasize enough how huge he was in this country. I'm looking, he sold 500,000 in America, which is gold. So he wasn't even platinum, but he would have sold a lot more than, again, by population basis than that in New Zealand. Um, I forgot what I was saying now. That's right. So because I was so negatively kind of turned off by the music and by just how it was too overplayed and just overexposed, I kind of stopped listening to this album, which I actually had liked up until that period. Um, and so, yeah. So when I saw it today, it was kind of like seeing an old friend after who I haven't seen for a long time. And so I grabbed it. Now, I also grabbed this one, which is his very first album, Welcome to the Cruel World. Now, I don't really have any history with this other than, again, the same girlfriend I just talked about before. She owned it, and I remember she played it a lot. But I remember having more positive feelings towards his earlier pre The Will to Live stuff, which was like this album here, and Fight for Your Mind. That's right. Fight for Your Mind is when he kind of blew up in New Zealand. And there was that video that there were skateboarders in it. He was playing like a skate bowl, and that was pretty big. What was the name of that song? Ground on Down. So this album and that album, I kind of felt they were actually okay, not bad. And then I really liked this album, and then after that, I kind of went off the rails for me. So I picked this up as well. This was $1 as well, and yeah, I don't know what else really else to say about this. I remember this CD actually looking different though. I don't remember it looking like that. Not that I looked at it a whole lot, but usually I recognize discs from looking at them. The song from this one there I remember liking is, I think it was Forever. Yeah, number 7, Forever. And I can't remember the other one. There was a couple of songs on this that I remember thinking, well, okay. Anyway, so I got those two Ben Harper CDs. The other one, The Cult, Sonic Temple. Now, I own no albums by The Cult. In the past, I have, I remember I had their album on cassette. Which album was it? It was the one they did in kind of, some people say their kind of grunge album. Oh, the self-titled one, The Cult, which came out in '94. Has kind of like a goat on the front of it or something like that. I remember. Um, I owned that on cassette. I remember, and I also owned, what was it? Wasn't this one? What's the? Is it Electric? No. There's another one that I had. Was it Ceremony? Love. I'm going through them, looking at them, and looking down at them. What was the one? There was like one that was like, it had like a white cover, and it had like the symbol on, like symbols on the front of it. Or am I mixing up things together? Or is that not? Is that like a greatest hits or something like that? Maybe is that maybe what I'm getting mixed up here? Pure Cult. Is that what I'm thinking of? Ah, yeah, Pure. Okay, so there's a greatest hits. Pure Cult. This one. So he's got that symbol, not just one symbol, not symbols. I had that as well at some stage. But anyway, I got here Sonic Temple, which in the scheme of things, I'm not sure if this how big or small this was, but I know Bob Rock produced it. Sun King, Firewoman, American Horse, Edie, Ciao Baby, Sweet Soul Sister, Soul Asylum, New York City, Automatic Blue, Soldier Blue, Wake Up, Time for Freedom, Medicine Train. Now, The Cult has always been a band that almost everything I've heard by them, I've liked. But at the same time, I haven't listened deeply to them, like beyond that one album I had, which apparently was kind of completely different from everything else they had done, that one they released in '94. And then bits and pieces, I think, off that greatest hits, Pure Cult thing that I talked about as well. So, um, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm particularly familiar with all the material on this album, but at the same time, uh, interested to listen to it. Um, I've always liked Ian Astbury's voice, and yeah, there's not really much else to say about it, really, is there? What was their big album? Was this the one that sold the most? Because in my mind, I have like an idea of the Cult kind of having one particular big breakout album, and then afterwards, not doing as well as people had expected them to. So this came out. Sonic Temple came out in '89. So maybe this is their big one. And I got to what? Where am I looking at? I'm looking at trying to look at the US, not UK. Okay, so none of them did particularly well in the US. So yeah, in my mind, I thought that the Cult had like kind of one big number one album in the US, but apparently not. What I do remember is when Ceremony came out, which is the one that's got a Native American kid on the front of it, and one of the videos, I think it's was it Wild Child or Wild Hearted Son? It starts off and there's an Native American, I don't know what you call him, guy dressed up in all the garb doing like a war dance in the middle of LA on the highway or something. And remember that seeing that when I was a kid. That album came out in '91, and that seemed to have a big like not influence, but an impact on me because I've always remembered that video. Uh, but yeah, I've just kind of rambled there about not knowing much about the Cult, knowing less about the Cult than I thought. But anyway, 3 pretty decent albums, not anything amazing or anything, but at least better than what I've been finding recently in secondhand shops, I've got to say, because I've said this in the last few videos, is that the last 2 or 3 months have been the worst in terms of finding anything worthwhile in the secondhand shops. There was a period there in 2020, kind of just before when I first returned to New Zealand, just before COVID, and then the period after as well, where it seemed like a gold mine. You just find so much stuff every time. Every shop you went into, you would find something decent. And I also understand that as you fill in the gaps in your collection, you kind of tick the things you wanted. That means, sometimes I'll go into a shop and I think, oh, that's all right, but I've got it. That's all right, but I've got it. So that does happen a lot. But just there seem to be more good stuff out there. It seems another factor could be the fact that maybe it's picking up in popularity, or the idea of buying secondhand CDs, and there's more people out there searching, and so the good stuff gets taken quicker. Um, a combination of all those things, or just I don't know what it is exactly, but it's I think I mentioned in the previous video about 2 weeks ago. I decided I wanted to make a video of me actually taking the camera and going around some stores, not narrating and talking, because I can't do that, or I don't want to do that, but at least showing visually the amount of stock they have in these stores and the kind of stuff you see. And I did film stuff over a day, and I went to about 8 or 10 different shops, and I found nothing that whole day. And it was like it was a good illustration, but I said that in the other video that I couldn't manage editing all the pieces, stitching it all together, because I didn't have capacity and I wanted to save the file as anyway. I didn't. I just ended up deleting it all. Also, some of the footage that was I filmed while I was in the car, while I was driving. It had this vibration going through the tripod, and it was annoying. It was annoying for me, so I can imagine it would drive some people watching it crazy. So I thought, oh, that's not much value uploading that, so I didn't. But yeah. Anyway, so three okay things, better than nothing. $1 each, pretty decent. Thank you for watching.